Thank God that I had some technical challenges. That's why my line went off, and then the other record, the first recording went off abruptly. I'll continue with the unit one, but this time to section five. That has to do with the challenges facing the discipline. The challenges facing the discipline. Right now, we have quite a number of challenges that has been listed in your book. One has to do with inadequate resources, lack of interest, and have to do with marketability, which I will explain. Let me start with the inadequate resources. It is a fact that if one wants to undertake research in traditional African societies, in fact, it involves a lot of money. Just imagine I want to take a research maybe on the culture practices of an aspect of the cultural practice of the people of Mali or Dagbon in the northern region. Definitely, I have to go to the north, stay with them for some time, and of course, since I am there for a mission, the issue of transportation will be paramount. And of course, if I'm not able to speak any of the will be paramount. And of course, if I'm not able to speak any of the definite that means that I need to get somebody who is a native there who can speak their dialect very well and also can communicate with me in terms of English. And of course, like I talk about finance, transportation, I need to maybe if I can't drive, I need to maybe when I get there either rent a car so that I'll be able to conduct my research freely and be able to move quite well. Because I may get to places where maybe transportation becomes a difficult, but if I should have a means of my own, it will be okay. It will help me fast track things. But all this involves money. All this involves money. Sometimes researchers in African cities have to go to communities, stay with those communities for so many months in a field of learning or mastering the dialect of the people that he or she is to research into. And the number and all these things takes toll, of the people that he or she is to research into. And the number and all these things takes toll, on our finances. The person has to eat. He has to do a lot of things there, and transportation in and out, all is cost. Cost involved. Now, where would the person get the money? That's the question. And in Africa, in Ghana in particular, the priority now is that we see the government sees science and technology as a panacea to our development. Fine, that is good. But you see, so when it comes to the issue of African studies or humanities in general, uh, not much priority is given to the humanities in general, which of course African studies is under humanities. So, for instance, if two people are applying for scholarship from the scholarship secretariat, and one is to conduct a research on the culture of the people of Dagbon, and the other is going to maybe conduct a research in the mosquito parasite. Of course, I bet you the one who is doing on mosquito parasite will be given as compared to the one who want to look into the people or the cultural practice of the Dagbon people. These are the things that is happening. So you see, the government does not have the interest. The government doesn't want to support because they see that the panacea for our development is what the sciences, science and technology. But you see, this is not a problem in terms of financial support, government supporting students to conduct African studies researches. In the developed world, it's not a problem. So you see, Black Americans, Europeans coming down here to Africa here to study issues about us, go back and write stories about us. and then sell it back to us. Most of these are sponsored by government and other non-governmental organizations. In our case, these are not there. So researchers always have to pre-finance or finance their researches. And this is a problem. So inadequate resources is a problem. Now the second issue has to do with the lack of interest in African cities. I believe if African cities was not made compulsory, well, some of you, if not all of you, wouldn't have registered for this course at all. Now this tells me that, of course, the African, so some of us do not show or have interest to study things about us. We don't have the interest. And not only the student, even our parents. So sometimes you hear people, parents say that, why my UCC or Legon has given my child African studies, or I've given my child Dondology or Ghanaian languages. What is the person coming to learn Tree and Fanti for? These are things, common things that common knowledge, things that we often hear parents saying. That should tell us that the parents themselves do not have the interest knowing or studying anything about African studies, and then let alone letting their children, allowing their children to come to the university, certificate in dancing, certificate in Ghanaian languages. For what? For? So the parents do not have the interest. So if the awards, so that's why sometimes you see people, some parents let their children buy 2 or 3 forms from different universities. Maybe you buy UCC, you buy Legon, and buy Tech. So if Legon should give the child Dendology or Dendology or African studies, they move to UCC. Maybe what will UCC give? If UCC give administration, they say, oh, go to administration. So I for the African studies and that Legon, and forget about it. These are the things. Parents, so most parents do not have the interest, and that is what is killing us. Then again, not only parents, the government, or the part of government, the law enforcers, the lawmakers, government does not have interest to sponsor issues about African studies, as I indicated earlier on. The interest, Caribbean or whatsoever, who are now coming to Africa to study issues about us. When we ourselves do not have interest to study issues about us, that is the irony, and that is a fact. The African is no more. The African is not does now have the interest to study things about himself or herself. But African wants to do what? It comes to to the university to do administration. Yes, to do science courses and what's yes. But African studies, no. So you see, the student does not have the interest, the parent no interest, government also does not show interest. And how do you expect that discipline to make an impact when we ourselves do not have the interest, an impact. When we ourselves do not have the interest to know or study things about us. Another challenge is scarcity of publishing houses. When you look at Africa, we have scarcity of publishing houses, and this is an issue that hinders the effort by researchers to publish their findings. So assuming I financed my findings, I've gone to Bunkulugu Yoyo in the north, conducted research there on culture of the people there. I've come back from that place. I've sat down, put my manuscript, everything in order. Now the problem is the publishing houses. Most of what we have in Africa, in Ghana in particular, are printing houses, and there's a difference between a printing house and a publishing house. We have only few publishing houses in Ghana, and even with that one, they are there to make money for their owners. So if you come with an issue or you African cities, they'll tell you, oh, my brother, this is the cost, very expensive. And even sometimes they'll reject it because it will not sell. Unlike maybe you going to write something on politics, where, for instance, if I should go in and come out with a paper or a book trying to unearth maybe what have killed our former, late president, Atta Mills, you see how publishers would be rushing to publish that, because they know that once they publish it and it gets the domain of the public, it will people will buy. But if I should go and talk about Bunkuru Yoyo, their culture practice and other things, they themselves will not be willing to publish, because if you publish it, it will not go fast. So you see, we have a problem. And that is why some Ghanaian scholars that I know, most of them, particularly those in our area, they do their publication outside, either in Holland or in other European nations or America, because there are a lot of quite a number of publishing houses, and the cost involved is also what cheaper as compared to our end. So this is a problem that is bedeviling the study of African cities in this part of our world. Of course, that this challenge is not a problem when you go to the developed world, where they have a lot of publishing houses, where they are even ready to publish issues of Africa, and sometimes some of them give at a reduced price. So this is a challenge. In Africa, the cost of final work is often very expensive. Very expensive. So sometimes if you look at the field work you have gone to, or the field work and the cost involved, sometimes if you look at the field work you have gone to, or the field work and the cost involved to the north and do everything and write my manuscript, and then the publisher is going to take me about 10,000 Ghana cedis. Oh my God. Sometimes we be demoralized. But these are the issues, these are the facts. That's why some of our colleagues prefer to go outside to get their works published, and they'll bring it back. And I think that is a laudable idea. The next issue has to do with disagreement among scholars. A disagreement usually arising over the work and membership of African Studies Association. We have we have been having, or we have had dissenting views concerning the direction that African Studies or the association should go. And this has often, in some cases, led to a split within the association. Scholars in and outside of Africa have been critical about the methodological premises of what some members, particularly Western scholars who are members of African Studies associations. So there's a problem there. Then again, most scholars from Africa, the Caribbean, the US, have expressed concern about the domination of the association by Western scholars. Now, this is an association of what? African studies scholars who have come together to project the image of the African. So sometimes some of us ask ourselves, why? I mean, why should it be dominated by Western scholars? That's a question. Why should even a Western scholar be part of that association at all? That's a question. Well, sometimes we don't know the reason. And indeed, as a result of situation where Western scholars have dominated the association, it has in a way led to split, where today we have what is known as the African Heritage Studies Association and the Joint Committee on African Studies. And these associations they want the association to be only people of black descent. They don't want any interference or any person from the Western world. Well, they have their opinion, they have their reasons for that. But you see, these are some of the issues. These are the petty issues that is what that the discipline is facing. Of course, apart from what has been mentioned here, the fifth point I will add is this: the issue of marketability, as I've mentioned earlier on. Now, the question is, after doing African studies, which of course most people ask, what is the way forward? What is the job prospect? What is the job prospect? What is the job prospect? And this is not only a challenge facing all the other courses that fall under the humanities. So people ask, you come to the department to do religion or Africa to go to African studies to read African studies. What is the prospect? But the point is that we are trained, or we train people to become critical thinkers. People not accept things on the face value. And we impart the issue of human values, which of course is very, very important today in the job market. Today in the job market. It's very, very important. I can cite an example of people who have read humanities, some African, specifically African studies, others religion, history, who are now well placed. Who are now well placed. The issue is the foundation they had. They had a very good foundation, solid foundation, and they could think they logically. So the prospect is there. Maybe perhaps the only place that a person who is from the humanities cannot fit in is the accounting area, where it has to do with figures and whatsoever. But aside that, the administration or whatsoever, people can work in. And the issue of human values also is very, very important, where we instill values to the people, to our students. It's very, very important. We are in a globalized world, and the issue of values is important at the workplace. So the job prospect is there, but unfortunately, our parents do not know the reason why. I mean, they don't know these things. So they always think that, oh, my son comes to do African studies, the job prospect is not there. So he will not even allow him or her to do it. But it is very, very important. Some parents, yes, the job prospect is there. If only you take your study serious and do what you are expected, the job prospect is there. But what the training we give you, you can able to apply it wherever you find yourself. Now, these are the challenges facing the discipline. If you have any comment, if you have any objection or whatsoever, let me know. Now, the last section, which is section 6, has to do with the state of the discipline, the state of African studies in Ghana. Now, when it comes to the role of projecting the African identity, of course, Ghanaians or Ghana also played a role in projecting the African identity. And this was when the institute was done in Legon. He opened it in Legon. And it was to lead a crusade in conducting research into all aspects of life of the African people. And since its establishment, the institute has attracted scholars and researchers outside and within Africa. Now, the multidisciplinary nature of its program affords the institute the ability to undertake and teach in a wide range of fields. And as I speak to you, the institute in Legon has quite a number of research followers who have specialized in different areas of specialization that has to do with African studies. The institute has also been able to come out with graduates. Yes. The institute runs MBA programs, MPhil programs, even PhD programs. I remember in UCC here, when African studies started, it started with some few visiting lecturers from Legon. And gradually, as I speak today, African studies has no visiting lecturers anymore. I mean, those who are coming from Legon, I mean, they've stopped. Now the department started from something small with undergrad courses. Today, as I speak, it has what? MPhil students, PhD students, and it has been able to produce students from from these three levels, undergrad, MPhil, and the PhD levels, and the PhD level, and it is going. The idea of expansion is going, and the department has mounted quite a number of African studies courses. Some of them are religion in Africa, language and ethnicity, slave trade and globalization, the African family, democracy and governance in traditional Africa, and reproductive health and development. So the department here has developed, developed in diverse ways, just as the first one that was started in Legon has developed in diverse ways. So this happens to be the state of African studies in Ghana. In Ghana, this happens to the state. So if you have any question, any comment, as I say, just try to put it on WhatsApp, then I'll respond to that. But now let me take some few minutes to maybe take you through examination process, although you've not gotten there. But the good student is the one who knows the techniques of or what examiners are looking for. Now, as you read the book, get a notebook, make notes for yourself, and as you read section by section, for instance, Unit 1, Section 1, that has to do with the nature and scope of African studies, you should know that there are certain areas, no matter what, the chief examiner will not set an end of semester question there because of the limit. But there are areas where that has to do with 4 points, 5 points, and above. That should tell you those areas are likely areas that the chief examiner will set an end of semester question there. Maybe set an end of semester question there. So as you read, set questions for yourself. Close your book, make attempt to answer them. You'll be surprised. You get to either the first quiz or second quiz or whatever. You'll be surprised that sometimes some of the issues that you have set yourself, the question, you'll find them there. Because the examiner also reads, as you are also a student reading, he also reads that way, and then sit down and then set his questions. Set his questions. So if, for instance, you are asked to write on the factors that contributed to the late development of African studies, one thing you should note is this. I'm talking about the section A, section B rather, end of semester. What do examiners expect? Every essay has 3 parts: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And all these 3 parts, marks are located or awarded. So you get the introduction marks, body marks, conclusion marks, all making up 20 marks. So if you have to talk about the factors for the late development of African studies, the step you need to take is first to define what the concept or the idea African studies is in your own language. After which, you talk about the factors that have in a way contributed to the late development of African studies. Once that is done, I'm sure no examiner, apart from maybe grammatical errors or correction or whatsoever, that maybe they'll take some marks from points from that, you get the maximum points. You must be mindful of this argument. So state philosophical argument. Meanwhile, you have captured the points you are going to discuss in the introduction. After the definition of African studies, you come to this. Oh, there are many factors that have contributed to the late development of African studies. Some of them are philosophical argument, historical argument, work of missionaries, and the Africans themselves. So these four will be discussed or examined. Then you take them one after the other. But don't itemize them that I. No, no, no. You have gone past that state. It should be free flow in the form of essay. So your introduction should be essay form. Your body the same, your conclusion the same thing. When it's done, then you come to the body. You indicate philosophical argument. Then you explain comprehensive discussion of the argument. Then you cite an example. The example that you give tells the examiner that you really know what you are about. And marks are given for illustrations. So if you write without any example, of course, you wouldn't get the maximum marks. So each point where there is the need, for illustration, you should bring an illustration there. After which you move to the second point, third point, fourth point, with all illustrations. Now, once that is done, you come to the conclusion. The conclusion is no more, it's no more short summary where you turn in quote the introduction upside down in quote. No. The conclusion demands that you give your personal opinion regarding the late development. Give your personal opinion regarding the late development of African studies. What is your personal opinion concerning the late development of African studies? And that is what you need to put behind you. There are cases where students, I don't know whether it is because of pressure or whatsoever, when they are writing essay, they will not bring introduction, they will not bring conclusion. You just start straight to the body, and then that is all. When it happens that way, you lose the marks allotted for the introduction. So will you also lose the mark allotted for the conclusion. So at the end of the day, if the body of the essay is 12 marks or 15 marks, you are going to be marked by 12 or 15 marks. And that means you have lost 8 marks or 5 marks. You have done it to the examiner free of charge. And this is happening. So please take note of it. Once you get your paper at the right time, jot down things down, look onto them, then begin to start answering the question. To answer the question. So these are the strategies also that you need to guide you. If you have any question, as I indicated, or you can WhatsApp me, and then let's chat. Thank you for listening. Shalom.